Welcome to Beyond the Brink, the show that dives headfirst into exploring global events that are pushing people to the limits and driving them to the brink of change. I'm your host, Christy, and I'm here with my multi-talented co-host, Melissa.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Today, we have a remarkable guest lined up for you, Versan Aljarrah from Black Swan Capitalist. Now, before we kick things off, and if you're tuning in on YouTube or Rumble, show us some love with a thumbs up or give us a rumble. And to those who are listening on the radio, don't worry, we've got you covered. You can catch up on all of our previous episodes by visiting our website at vitabroadcastnetwork.com. That's vitabroadcastnetwork.com, or on your favorite podcast platform. Just search us out by using the handle at Vita Broadcast. Now let's bring on our guest, Versan Aljarrah. Versan is the founder of Black Swan Capitalist, a dynamic and talented individual based out of Houston, Texas. He's a multi-talented independent market researcher, content creator, investor, engineer, business owner, and consultant. With expertise in cryptocurrencies, digital assets, blockchain technology, financial markets, and personal finance, Versan offers unique insights and rich market data to help investors gain a competitive edge in this new asset class. Now, before focusing on Black Swan Capitalist, Versan successfully scaled his tech repair company, becoming one of the most recognized in Houston, Texas. However, his passion for cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, and financial markets led him to his current endeavors. Versan has an international background as a global traveler, having lived and studied in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and finishing out his education in the United States. Now, teaming up with his brother Vandal, they're two diligent and curious nerds based in Houston, highly engaged in research and focused on cryptocurrencies, digital assets, and the evolving financial system. Today, they help and teach clients how to capitalize on digital assets, blockchain technology, and crypto while learning to protect their own assets in this changing financial environment. Their goal is to leave people in a better place, more knowledgeable, and future fit. Don't miss their next YouTube video broadcast at Black Swan Capitalist channel, where you'll find insightful discussions you've been waiting for. Versan, we are beyond thrilled to have you join us today on the show. Welcome to Beyond the Brink.
It's a pleasure.
We thought we thought, actually, to be honest with you, I said, maybe we're getting ghosted and this guy is not legit real, because we had that conversation with Lewis where he was reaching out to somebody and they almost didn't respond to him because they thought he is probably a scammer. And so then I was going to call your number because this was supposed to be starting at 9 Eastern or 10 Eastern.
10 Eastern, yeah.
And so then I'm like, maybe he's ghosting us and or it's not the right person,
I apologize. Yeah, that's very common right now with all this technology. There's so many con artists out there trying to just scam people out their money. Even with AI now, they're replicating your face and they're making these you could be talking and it's not really you.
Oh, definitely. That's outrageous, isn't it?
Yeah. Technology has its pros, but it has a lot of cons too. So, yes.
I'm not a big fan of quite a lot of regulation, a lot of heavy hand, but I think AI is one of those things we have to rein in until we know more about it.
Yes, I absolutely agree. The landscape is really changing. AI is not just it's not really just affecting our youth these days too. You can hear a lot of stories already. ChatGPT was only a year old, maybe 2. And you hear a lot of stories, even from some of my friends who are parents, and they're talking about how the children are using it to do their own homework, for instance. So they're
sure.
And that could be a problem because now the child is not thinking critically for themselves to figure out how to do this and how to have that thought process to write down your thoughts. Instead, you're asking an AI software to write your thoughts for you. Think about that.
They were already selling answers and things like that. My significant other happens to be a professor, and the critical thinking skills are lacking. Let's just say that. And this is just yet another thing that's going to take that skill away. Although I will say, in using Chat GPT and those types of technologies, you do have to know how to ask the right questions to get the answers. And so you do still need to kind of know what you're looking for. And I think in the future, it'll be blatantly obvious which people are using straight up AI Chat GPT answers and which ones aren't, but it's definitely something that we need to be worried about for the future of our children.
Yeah. Furthermore is the rise of AI. It really, and automation, it really poses a significant threat to job security because AI technologies are advancing very fast and they learn at a very accelerated pace. So they have the potential then to replace certain job functions traditionally performed by humans. And I think that's what we're already seeing. This is just the beginning. And this could lead to, of course, increased efficiency and productivity in the short term, but it raises concerns about job displacement and widening the wealth gap as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now it could be a rabbit hole discussion right there, which we really enjoy. Versan, reading your bio on the website, what I was intrigued with is the notion of being curious nerds. And that just Love resonates. That's along with us as well. We're very curious, nerdy ladies.
I think
we have a lot in common.
Oh yeah, it's, there's so many things unanswered, and at the end of the day, I think everybody is feeling the same. Maybe we're not expressing it all together because of the great divide between diversity, this, that, but this is exactly what they want.
Exactly.
They want us divided so we can't communicate.
Right. Yep. I say that all the time. And I said, one of the things about the digital asset space that I just love is that you have a lot of younger people and a lot of the older people kind of coming together and having these discussions, and everyone has a little bit different perspective, but we're all kind of coming to the same conclusion, is that they want us divided and they want us controlled to kind of take us into the CBDC world, and they want to confuse everybody. And I think it's really cool how we're all kind of coming together like a magnet. We're all just being drawn to one another. And you and your brother are, I'm so impressed with you. You guys are like the age of my sons. And so I kind of look at you like mom looking at her boys, being so proud of what you guys have accomplished and how intelligent you are and the research that you've done. And having the forethought or knowledge to even the interviews that you guys get. You're talking to some old school folks and asking for their perspective. And I think that is just fantastic. And I think that these old people are learning from you guys as well. So
yes,
so cool.
It's been a real honor to speak with some of those bright minds out there. Between us like 2 weeks ago, I was on the phone with Robert Kiyosaki, and that was an honor to speak with him.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to speak with him. We want him to come on the show, and many others too. Unfortunately, this is something I'm going to share with you, but many of the top people we've really reached, and we're talking about Nomi Prinz. Nomi Prinz is a former Goldman Sachs executive for 20 something years. She's now out of there, does her own thing. And we tried to reach to Jim Rickards. What else? Judy Shelton. Judy Shelton is someone I admire because of her forthright as far as this whole transition and how she's taking it and trying to get people to understand how it could be backed by physical commodities. And she's a gold bug, and that's what I love about it. Taking the digital and the physical and kind of merging them together. That way it's stable.
Yep.
That's real stability. So we tried to reach out to her, and I had a discussion with her, and she said, send me the questions, right? Like, what do you want to talk about? And when I had XRP in there, she said there was a conflict of interest, and that just made me boil a bit, and it made me dig deeper into why that is. So there are so many people that have gotten emails from us, but they don't want to come on.
Really interesting. Yeah. What do you think the conflict of interest is? What do you speculate that is?
Well, I think it's really all about the fact that the world is changing at an unprecedented pace. And this is, again, leading to many people that are waking up to realize what's really happening here and transpiring. And at the same time, there is a transition of wealth that is going to occur, whether these people have non-disclosure agreements or not. But you discover that the higher you go, they have more information. They really do. So, when we talked even with Peter Schiff, for instance, we tried before the interview, we have a lot of discussions before we start recording. And we talked about XRP. He didn't want to talk about it. So you know what we did? When we were in the middle of the interview, and you can watch this, the whole thing is about gold and the global economy shifting and the financial system crashing. And my brother he phrased a question so well that we got away with it. And we phrased a question about what XRP was doing and what it could be. You see potential there? And he was like, oh yeah, absolutely. And we're like, well, that's what XRP is doing. And then
whoops.
That's totally fine. But again, he's selling gold. That's his thing. So why would you tell people to go somewhere else, right? But I understand. I think right now we need to stop sugarcoating everything. And this is what most of these mainstream economists do. They talk about interest rates, they talk about inflation, and I'm over that. I want to talk about the underlying cause of that.
Right. Well, you know what they do with that, Versan? The people that are on the television are to make you, the end user of that information, feel stupid, that we couldn't possibly understand what this smart person knows, right? And I think as I got older and I started seeing these people, these mouthpieces on the TV, and a lot of them would be younger and they'd just be spewing off all this stuff, and I'd think, who the hell are you? Where did you come from, type thing. Where are you getting all your knowledge from? Because I don't think you're saying the right stuff here, So what were you going to say, Christy?
Well, and I apologize for the background noise. We have some construction going on outside, but I believe that the mainstream media is there to serve a purpose, and that is to send a scripted message. And that is why all of the mainstream medias are parroting the same thing. Now, there's a couple fringe ones out there, and I say fringe in that they're not under the same messaging system, so to speak. So you have to approach them with discernment. But most of the other ones, just turn the channel, the radio, whatever the case is, and you're going to hear the same thing.
Yeah,
that's all you're going to hear. And to me, that is programming. They want us to have a particular narrative. Look at all the imagery out there, the signaling behind all of that, the placement of the flag and all of that type of thing that's going on right now. It is designed to divide.
This is classic central intelligence,
isn't it?
Programming.
Yes.
This is predictive programming, and this is how they do it. It's very simple. You just keep playing the same message over and over and over, whether you believe it or not. At some point, it's in there. That's it. And this is why I tell people, like, some people will have like CNN on the background, but they're like, I'm not watching it. I'm not watching. It's just background noise. Well, subconsciously, you are absorbing that still.
Yes.
It is having some detrimental effect to you. But I think people just really need to wake up. And
yes,
how can we spread this message is talking about it, the open dialogue. I think it's very helpful. There are many people that enjoy listening to podcasts and topics like this, and they should be, because these things are ultimately going to determine what your future is going to look like in the very near future, because it's happening very fast. And this is what they do. Like the banking crisis, they scared people. They manipulated the gold price again. They brought it back down. They propped up stocks. They took away the banking crisis fear, and they introduced something else, the debt ceiling. And guess what? We're back at it again. Now the banking crisis is about to get started again. And people forgot about it already. It's like, oh, that was just a little hiccup.
Many people don't realize that the world is on the brink of a financial reset.
Henceforth,
yeah, I mean, and we've got the currency crisis, the energy crisis, the economic, and they have created all these things. But most of us are caught in the hamster wheel of left versus right, black versus white, old
That's
versus
by design.
And as long as we can keep fighting amongst ourselves over things that are unimportant, and keep watching those shows and what the Kardashians are doing and all these things. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, they're changing our financial system. And, I try to explain this to people and they just gloss over, roll their eyes, and here comes Melissa again, talking her crazy conspiracy stuff. And I'm like, no, please listen, guys, So I just wonder, what do you think about that in terms of how this has been? I mean, they've created this. They've known that the US dollar was going to fail for quite some time. It was never built to last. And, we've had economic crisis over the years. And then you have, the since like 2008, 2009, when they had the housing market and all those loans that they created. I noticed that that's right around the time that the BRICS nations formed and really started wanting to get away from the US dollar. So I was wondering if you could share your perspective on that.
Of course, absolutely. But real quick, Christy, did you want to add something to that? And then I can go ahead and cover both of what you guys were talking about.
Well, I think Melissa got to it a little bit, but I just wanted to share that I had watched an interview of Raoul Pal, and Tom Bilyeu was interviewing them, and they were talking about this subject. And I was taken back a little bit when Raoul Pal said, we have not had real growth at all since the 70s. This whole thing started by the early generation baby boomers.
Right.
So you would think that the greatest generation had all of these kids. I'm kind of on the cusp of a baby boomer kid, and think that we never had economic growth throughout my entire lifetime, ever. It has all been manufactured. It's an illusion to make us feel as though we have wealth, because as we print more money, our asset values have to go up, because to keep the illusion going, you can't have the Federal Reserve or the United States government, or any other government for that matter, not prop up their asset values. Otherwise, it's game over.
Right. So for touching on both of what you said, first thing, I want to simplify this for the audience. And this is the most important part. What's the situation? The situation is that we are all working harder and harder for a currency, the dollar, which everyone depends on, the whole global economy, by the way. We're working harder and harder for a dollar that is coming into your pocket, and it's losing value faster than you can earn it. So by the time that money comes into your pocket from your paycheck, with a very slow payment system, may I add, because this is what XRP is doing. We'll talk about that in a bit. But by the time that money gets in your pocket and you get it and you're ready to go spend it, gas prices are higher, food is higher. So we're in a situation where, how do I say this? It's the middle class that is really getting screwed the most. But soaring credit card debt like we've never seen before, record high in the history of the United States. Our credit card debt is high. Our savings are shrinking for the children too. They're not going to have a future based on the rate we're going with the dollar. So something needs to change. And I think that's really what the BRICS was essentially about. It was about building something that can challenge the dollar and the weaponization of the dollar, because that's really what the US is doing. They're weaponizing the dollar against our foreign adversaries, and they're weaponizing the dollar against you and I, their own citizens. So when you
100%.
start to look at the bigger picture here, the question really is, and this is the big question, is this being engineered together, or is there really a divide in this new monetary system? But the way I see it is, I get information from Saudi, I get information from Dubai. So I have family out there, so we know what's really going on. And what we see is that there's a global shift of technology, power, influence, money, and brains, most importantly. And it's all going east. The rest of the world is going to leave America behind, and America will eventually become a third world country. And I'm not kidding about this. This is the ultimate agenda. And how can I support this? There's a book. If anyone reads out there, I encourage them to check out this book. It's called The Great Narrative. And this was written by Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum. And he publicly has said this before. Now, in his book, he said this: the power will go, the throne. They're going to give the throne to the East. Why?
Okay.
Because in the East, people are already programmed to be obedient. So they don't have to work as hard to make us obedient. But look in America, people wave their guns around, people will protect their freedoms, because this is America, right? So how could they deal with us? Maybe a vaccine, maybe something else. I mean, maybe weaponizing the food industry, maybe weaponizing global financial collapse, so that way we get left behind, because the dollar is the reserve currency. If anything happens to the dollar, the global economy will fall, they say, right? Not really. And I'll tell you why. Because if you look at the data and the facts, and this is what Benel and I cover a lot, there is a geopolitical shift going over there. How come Dubai, Saudi Arabia, China, I have a file this thick of all these big financial institutions and central banks too, that are already working with these technologies, and they're being put into place, the agreements and the policies, because it seems like they're going to flip a switch in a sense. And the instant movement of wealth, this is the great wealth transfer I talk about a lot.
Right.
It's going to go from one place to another. Money doesn't just vanish. It simply moves from one set of assets into another, typically emerging markets. And this is what history has shown us. What are the emerging markets right now? It's blockchain and it's technology.
Right.
Artificial intelligence, I'd say, cybersecurity, things like that. So we do see that shift happening. And the question is, like, what are people's priorities here in America? Do they care? Do they care that their freedoms are being taken? Do they care that they might be broke in another year from now? I don't think they care. And that's the sad part, because our sources have told us that this new system doesn't work without wiping out a certain amount of people. And when I say wiping them out, I'm talking about financially.
Right.
Because they cannot roll out their new digital agenda unless everyone is already subjected and weaponized by the food industry, the energy, the financial system. Then you can get people to obey. And I'll give you an example. This is where central bank digital currencies tie in. I've read the white papers. I've listened to Rishi Sunak. Look him up, Rishi Sunak.
Oh, yes.
Minister of the UK right now, right?
Right.
And he said that the programmable currency, and this ties into the Bank of International Settlements, they publicly announced this many times, they can control what you spend your money on. And I'll give you an example. If I don't want to vote for Biden and I want to go vote for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., okay, they're not going to like that. So they might cut out my spending. I'm sorry about that, but they'll cut my spending off because it's programmable, which means I can't pay my rent. I can't pay my food. I am cut out of society. And guess what? My roommate, he witnessed that happen to me. I'm being, this is an example.
Hypothetical.
Hypothetical, right? If my roommate saw this happen to me, what's he going to do? He agrees with me. but he's not going to say anything against
That's
Biden
right.
because he's afraid he's not going to be able to cover his rent and stuff like that. And guess what? Now he shuts up. Now the narrative continues. You see?
Mhm.
So this is the danger of a central bank digital currency. And I don't think people understand that just yet.
Man,
think
you just
people-
unpacked a lot of stuff
Oh
there.
yeah, I think people have been in a. You take the boil the frog analogy.
Mm.
How do you do that? Put them in a nice warm bath and just keep turning up the heat. And people are just lulled into this. I mean, I know so many people that are not worried about food shortages, not worried about finances. And I look at them, I go, well, what makes you feel so confident? Well, go look at the stores. There's nothing missing there. And I'll go, gee, I've looked at the stores and I see a lot of things have been replaced with store brand names rather than the brand names themselves. Shelves have been expanded out. There's less product available, although it has been expanded. Take a look at Costco, but people don't see this at all. And the same thing with finances. Your dollar is not buying as much as it used to. I mean, we're at what, $7 a gallon for gas at some point here in California. How long can that go on?
Well, it can't.
And
We're
then a
looking at
concern.
we're negotiating back our electricity. This is something that Gray Davis got recalled for his mismanagement of our energy grid, and we're back there now. Crazy stuff, and people don't see it. It's like, oh no, we'll be fine.
Well, they're also not paying attention to the consolidation of the banks and taking out the small banks.
They're not
the
worried.
community banks.
I'm insured. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's exactly what they think. And anytime I try to bring up, diversifying your assets or, taking your money out or like moving it around, spreading it around. I was talking to someone the other day. I won't mention who it was in case they ever listen to this video, which they probably won't. I was talking about, if you're not into cryptocurrency or, digital assets, gold and silver. And I got the look of like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Pay with gold and silver? What are you going to do? Shave a little bit of gold off when stuff,
So passe.
when shit has and I said to myself, man, you're first of all, you're being rude. And second of all, you sound really stupid.
I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. They are stupid, and that's okay. There are other people out there that completely they're just not paying attention. They don't care, and they don't know, and they simply don't understand how finance really works. They have the money, but they don't understand how the money works, it's kind of a joke. So essentially, how do you protect yourself from all of this? You've got to look at what the institutions are doing. People want to have money, but no one wants to follow the money. If you want to follow the money, you're going to see what the banks and the big institutions and the billionaires and the people who run the world, what they're doing. You see that they're putting certain key technologies on the payment rails. So what does this mean? And this is really what this whole blockchain space is. I'm going to simplify for everyone. And there's a lot of complexities about it, but basically the banks and the institutions are updating their payment rails. That's all. That's what it really is. You get an update on your phone, you press the button, it updates, and guess what? Your phone's working faster, your camera looks better. You know what I mean? This is the same thing. And they're just layering these protocols onto their payment rails. Anyone who understands cryptocurrency and what it really is, it's all about something called distributed ledger technology. It's the underlying technology. That's where the value is. So when we looked at cryptocurrencies, there's like 24,000. I will tell you right now, 99.999% are trash, and they will go to zero or be banned or outlawed. It's not going to happen. You're not going to beat the bank's own game. Okay. There are a few technologies that are being, again, put into place on these payment rails to make the system more seamless and interoperable. That's the big word in digital space, interoperability. If you can get these technologies to work together, a few of them, and I'm going to list those for your listeners too. You got XRP, you got XLM, XDC, IOTA, Algorand, And you have quant, QNT, and HBAR. And there's a few more. Those are the ones I'm heavily invested in. Now, again, not financial advice. So what these technologies are doing is they're targeting different niche places in the global marketplace. One is targeting money. One is targeting individual transactions like you and I. One is targeting supply chains. One is targeting the interoperability between artificial intelligence and all of this. That is essentially your great reset right there. All these technologies that we just named and a few more, they are complementing each other. They're not fighting against each other. And that's what people don't get. They're complementing each other. And that is your reset. That is your new central bank, if you will. They're all targeting the different places in the global economy and making this one seamless, interoperable financial system where everything is tokenized. If everything is going to be tokenized, and that's where we talk about the price of XRP and things like that, I'm not going to get into it too much, but the price would have to be extremely high. And that's because there's only 100 billion tokens ever created in circulation of this asset. So if that's the case, 100 billion, and you're going to tokenize the global economy, and at some point, all these technologies being interoperable, that value, whether it's a supply chain, whether it's interoperability between AI and other services, at some point, it's going to have to move right past the XRP ledger. That is where your value is in XRP. And this is why you might have heard ridiculously high numbers on probabilities, but we've done the math. We've looked at it. And, sometimes the numbers are even unfathomable. They really are.
Right.
Because we're talking about a technology, again, that's going to serve the global financial system and the global marketplace in general. So the price would have to be very high for this digital asset to function the way it was designed to. That's what people don't get. And we can break this down for a lot of people, but that's maybe another session. It's a lot of tech.
Yeah, I would love that, another session. Where do you think that the CBDC falls into here? Because I think I've heard you say, the reason why you think, XRP is kind of you can help yourself by being an XRP so that you're not a victim to the CBDC. Many people think that XRP is the CBDC.
No.
So can you explain the difference or what's your perspective on that?
Sure. Well, XRP is not a central bank digital currency. It's an instrument that moves value. That's all. That's really what it is. If it's an instrument that moves value, where's it going to move value to? Maybe a CBDC? That's really what a central bank digital currency is. A central bank digital currency is basically a representation of a country's fiat currency that's issued by the central bank. But if the central bank is issuing you a fiat currency, a digital form of it, a CBDC, it's got to run on a payment rail.
Right.
What payment rail is it going to run on? Remember updating the payment rail. It's going to run on the XRP ledger. Why? Because it's faster, it's scalable, it's cheaper, it's more efficient, it's green. I can go on and on. There's a list of things that people need to do very little bit of research on this regarding XRP. It has a very strong track record, might I add, with some of the biggest financial institutions and payment processors in the world. Its use cases is beyond being a digital settlement system. It's actually a currency exchange and a remittance network and a liquidity token. You know what the biggest problem right now in the global financial system? You're going to see news about it these days. Liquidity.
Right.
What is liquidity? Liquidity is essentially just having, in a sense, like cash on hand to where you can quickly make a transaction or move money around the world. Tightened liquidity markets are hitting right now, like you wouldn't believe. And with this new debt ceiling, I don't even want to get into it. It's just going to be a domino effect where this is just happened faster. And a news just came out actually yesterday, I believe, by the IMF talking about how global credit markets are drying up. Like we didn't know this was going to happen. Like a surprise. I mean, I don't know. Yes.
So the XRP solves the Nostro Vostro issue, right? That because it will provide such liquidity in an instant. And one thing I wanted your perspective on, because I get a little bit confused, and I definitely I've learned about XRP for a couple of years now, and and a lot of people say, it's the banker's coin and negative. And I understand that. What I wonder is, because a lot of people think that it could like trap people and that sort of thing. But when I think about it, what it's designed to do, in the instant liquidity and the distributed ledger being, decentralized and transparent and, quick, you can move money at the speed of light. You and I can exchange anything for anything. That actually gives a person more freedom, right? To move money around, as opposed to like a CBDC where they can turn your money off. Well, they can turn our money off now. I mean, we do have digital currency now. People don't realize they can just turn your bank account right off and shut your card. Oh, my card's not working. Whoopsie. Sorry. Oh, you didn't have $5 in your savings account. So we turned your other
car
account
off too.
Yeah, well, exactly. So I don't know. I wondered what your perspective on that is, when people say that XRP is going to trap people, and that when I actually see it, with everything I've learned, it seems more freeing for people and businesses to do commerce with one another, and the fact that the ledger, it's open source and anyone can build upon it. But yet they're also like you can run the CBDCs on it. So they're like, it's for everything, right? I don't know. I don't know if that's a good question or not, but
no, it's fine. Another factor, this is what I was saying earlier about the 100 billion. The factor, I think the most important thing about XRP really is the factor that it has a finite supply. The fact that it's a finite supply, unlike traditional fiat currencies or central bank digital currencies, they can continue to produce if they want to. It sounds like a digital fiat, and it is. That means they can manipulate the inflationary pressure if they want to. But with XRP being at a fixed supply of 100 billion tokens, the scarcity is what really contributes to a long-term value proposition for XRP.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Sounds like one of our other favorite coins.
Yes. I really think that in the short term, people are going to start realizing that this is the direction. Right. And another thing, we really still don't know everything. We try our best to do our research. I've spoken with people up the food chain, and I'm not talking about the people we've interviewed. We've talked to a lot of people off camera that we can't do an interview with. So, so humbled to have built some relationships, and we're hearing all kinds of other stories, and the best way I tell people to prepare themselves for a situation like this is never put your eggs in one basket. So what can you do to really protect yourself? Like me, sadly, I've had to sacrifice so much of my own time to go out and have fun, go travel. And, I miss that. I haven't traveled in 2 years now. And I've got to tell you, it's because I've taken all my money, my assets, and I've diversified it into things I know are going to come. And I had to make that sacrifice, but how many people are going to do the same thing out there? So I've invested in water. I have enough water for 2 years now, and I have enough food for, I'd say, about a year and a half. Physical gold, physical silver. Here's the silver. Cool. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So why do I carry physical silver, physical gold? It's because this is tangible. It's also liquidity, which means it's accepted anywhere on the planet because this is real money.
Yes.
So, when people realize that the dollar is losing value, they're going to be like, what can I accept? I don't want my dollar. I don't want to give my service or my food away for dollars because I can't buy anything with those dollars. What am I going to accept? People eventually, if they're smart enough, they'll start accepting gold and silver. I've been accepting silver at my business. I have a phone repair store also. I own, it's good cash flow. So I own a phone repair store as well. And we always incentivize people to pay with cash. So it's not taxable. We can hide some money. But at the same time, we also tell people you can pay with gold and silver and even crypto. So we've been accepting silver coins for a long time at my phone shop. I'm not even kidding. So yeah, I'll take anything because I know that's real money.
Absolutely.
Not that this show is going to be shown all over the place, but you might not want to say you're hiding money.
Let me ask a question on the coins that you are carrying. Are they rounds or are they minted coins?
I only buy minted coins, and for the listeners,
Excellent.
do not go buy a coin of silver with SpongeBob on it, for instance.
Right.
Or with like Poseidon or something like that, or Homer
Right.
Simpson. That's not good, and I'll tell you why. First of all, they could be faked. A lot of people do that. Another thing is, it's not considered legal tender.
Correct.
Silver. And I would take it because I like silver, but it's not legal tender, which means if I took that from you, I can't go use it where it's considered legal tender. So if I went to go food, for instance, I wouldn't be able to use, like, this is a Bitcoin one. And by the way, I do not invest in Bitcoin. I don't trust it. It's just I bought it because it's rare. And if I went to spend this somewhere, they're not going to accept it. If I took it to a gold store, they're going to give me like a lot less for it too. So what I recommend is everyone gets American Eagles, American Buffaloes. You can get the Libertads, and they have them in both silver and gold. Also Canadian Maples, Canadian Maple. These are designs for coins, but they are legal tender anywhere in the world. So
can I ask you a question? How long do you think people have to be able to buy? Like right now, they're kind of affordable for everyone. What would you speculate timeline where people are going to be running out of time on that?
It's already happening. I think people who are just starting to get prepared now have probably already missed the mark, which means they still have time to get prepared, but it's not going to be. The price of the precious metals market is being, of course, it's manipulated, but the premiums are going up insanely. And my friend owns gold stores here in Houston. US Coin is a good one, and Royal Coin. These are in Houston. I know both owners. I built relationships with them. So I would call them and ask them what's going on. And they would tell me, Versan, our premiums are going through the roof. I'm like, why? They're like, everyone is buying up the gold. Some anonymous buyer has been buying up everything in Houston. So the prices are going to go up because people are paying. At the same time, the minting, this is what Andy taught us a little bit on our podcast. Andy Sheckman was saying that the mints were struggling to get the demand out there.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a waiting list.
Yes. So these are signs. These are signs that things are not looking good. And again, owning physical assets could save you. What if the banking system goes down because of a cyber attack, whether it's engineered or not, to create the financial crisis, to get away with the crimes that they've done of devaluing our currency and just blame it on Russia?
Right.
What are you going to do then? You need something physical. You need physical stuff. It's important. You can't just have everything in your bank account. And that's not even your money. It's the banks. Look what happened with Silicon Valley Bank. And I'll tell you right now, I'm telling you the news before it happens. I'm not kidding about this. Deutsche Bank is going down next.
Oh gosh, that doesn't surprise me at all.
No.
Yep, it's the next one.
I'm glad you're saying that. It was just like, when is that shoe going to drop?
It's going to, yeah. And if you look at their balance sheets right now, this is the crazy thing. All these banks, people don't understand, is that they increase their loan ratio deposits to 100%, 150%. What does that mean exactly? It means that they're giving out more loans and they're encouraging people to take more loans with less deposits in the bank. So they're taking on more debt, more leverage, and they're borrowing from bigger institutions, which means when they fail, and they will fail, the bigger banks can now buy them and consolidate them. Easy. Because they allow it to happen.
Isn't it interesting that they're doing this when we have a commercial real estate catastrophe on our hands? Large hotel chains are just saying, we're just not going to make our payments anymore. 2 large ones in San Francisco just said, we're not going to make them anymore because of the politics here. Our properties have lost a lot of value. So we just won't pay the loans. And this has happened to other regional banks carrying these loans. This is going to be like a domino effect. What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. This is called systemic risk. And because what people don't understand also is, I think that, well, I know this for a fact, but every bank is at some point somewhere connected to another bank. So they're all interconnected, which means they're all borrowing money from each other. They're all loaning out from each other. So if something happens to one of them, there is going to be contagion. It spreads.
Like a
Right.
And this is
domino
what,
effect.
yes, Credit Suisse took a dive.
Yep.
Public West Pacific West, I'm sorry, it's not finished. They just stopped it for a bit so they can get people to relax. And then they hit you with another thing that was the debt ceiling thing. And I promise you it's coming back. It's going to start with Deutsche. Then all it takes is for one big bank to go down to
Oh,
see
sure.
detrimental effect. And this is what Jim Rickards refers to in his book, The Road to Ruin. It's called, great book. He talks about an ICE 9 scenario. It's where essentially this systemic risk and this contagion gets so bad to where the whole banking system overnight freezes because there's a lack of liquidity, insolvency, and bank failures, and again, when this goes back to gold and silver now, when the trust in the banking system is eroded, that's when physical assets like gold and silver provide a level of financial stability and security. And guess what? When these banks crash, as a result, the dollar is going to get hit too. What happens when the dollar goes to shit? All these precious metals are going to go through the roof because it's a form of currency. And this new system that they're building, by the way, now we don't have 100% confirmation on this, but we've talked to enough people to get some information to help us with the breadcrumbs. And we've done our own digging. So Simon Hunt was somebody we loved, and we had him on our show twice. He's in Dubai right now. He worked at the UK central bank for a bit, and he did a little bit of, he was in the copper space. So he worked with a lot of the people in the precious metals. So in 22, I'm sorry, he actually attended the Lisbon World Gold Conference in Lisbon. He was the public speaker there, the head speaker.
Wow.
And he said a lot of the blockchain companies were there. Blockchain, wow, sounds like tokenizing physical commodities.
It does, doesn't it?
I'll give you an example. If I want to buy a loaf of bread right now, and like that idiot said earlier, you can't scratch some gold off. Well, if
Right.
he's smart enough and he did his research and knew, he would understand that with blockchain, you can tokenize this. So
Right.
I pay Melissa for 0.00.1 gold for this session, for instance. You see what I mean? So we
Right.
can use digital form, and I think that's what's being built. And I don't think they're talking about it. And everyone has called me stupid about this. Even Matt Hamilton from Ripple. He's first of all, he's either really naive or he's playing a game.
Playing a game.
Yes.
I vote for playing a game.
And this is what I see being built. New digital system, which is linked with a basket of commodities, a basket. So that would include gold, silver, platinum, palladium, oil, all of it.
Can I ask you a question on that? You ever see that thing floating around where they're like, XRP is going to be pegged to gold and XLM is going to be pegged to silver and this one's going to be pegged to, I think it's going to be a basket, for that. But I kind of wanted your opinion on that real quick, because I have a lot of people asking me about that particular theory.
Sure. So in the beginning, I'm always learning. So when I first jumped into this, I had a lot of questions. I started digging, doing my research. And in some of my videos, even I did say that XRP was going to be backed by gold. And I still believe that, but I believe it's going to be backed by a basket now. I'm convinced that it's not just one. It's going to be a bunch of stuff that's going to back up all these technologies that are, again, interoperable. So I see a new system being built, and it's quite magnificent, really. The scary is that everyone else gets left out.
Yeah.
And that's what you were talking about earlier. You said they keep us divided. And while this division is going on, like Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ, sexualizing children. I mean, I can't believe the crisis after crisis is so disgusting, by the way, what we're seeing, and I'm not going to get into it. But while all this is going on, it's so dangerous and scary that people are so panicked about it and they're not paying attention to anything else. That, oh, look, we can't even focus on the banking crisis. We need to, they're sexualizing our children.
Yeah.
And I understand that's very serious. That needs to be addressed immediately. However, while that's going on, right back there, they're positioning themselves for a new monetary system where we get left out.
Yeah. It's almost like in your family, you need to say, Dad, you take this, mom, you take this, uncle, take this, because there's so many things that we have to fight, so many fronts,
Right.
but money is the keystone to it all. The money is the avenue of control for them. And unless we start paying attention, those other things are going to be way, way worse. Because if you have no money and then you get, made to follow into the whole CBDC control and that you don't even have a way to fight back, really. So unless physically, and you're only going to do that for a half a second and then you're done. Either somebody dies or you're in the gulag or whatever,
It's funny you say gulag, because I wanted to jump in here and say, all of this that's going on here, and your reference back to The Great Narrative by Klaus Schwab. I mean, these are all classic moves of communism being built, but on a global scale. This is what Mao did to his people. No one had a gender. It was a gender neutral. Women's hair would be shaved. They would all wear the same clothing. It was done on purpose so that everybody was the same. It was to direct a narrative. So, but I do have a couple questions for you. I've been kind of jotting them down as we've been going along, and I wanted to get back to something here, mentioning, I put debt down here on this, and back to the discussion we were having about what can we do as an individual. Would you agree that getting out of debt as quickly as possible is going to help in the long run? There are some people that say, my debt will just be forgiven when we crash. Who cares? I tend not to agree with that, but I want to know what your opinion is.
A lot of people think that the debt will just go away. Like, oh, I can just keep spending and spending. But that's really what a reset is. It does clean things up. However, it's hard to believe that these people, with all the corrupt things they've been doing, and I'm going to say this, evil, very evil. Yeah. I don't see them letting people just walk away with a clean slate. And
I don't either.
More sinister, as in the amount of debt you have once this new reset happens. And again, there's so many questions about the reset. I mean, this financial reset, because these numbers are going to change, interest rates will change and all that, and it's just going to simply roll over into the new stuff. So if interest rates go at an uncontrollable manner because of the bad monetary policies, as we transition, those interest rates could really fall into the new system. And if your debt was like this, it could be even substantially higher, which means you're slave for the rest of your life now with the CBDC. So I could easily see it playing out like that. I'm 29. I have never had a credit card in my life, and I'm doing just fine.
Good for you.
And yes, I've never had a credit card in my life. I get hundreds of letters to say, Versan, you can borrow this much money. Take it, take it. I'm just like, nope, I'm good. So yeah, I don't have debt, and I encourage everyone to stop using credit cards and learn how to position yourself to where you can actually save money and build your own wealth and go from there. And that's kind of what I did since a young age. I would like to share a very short story with you. When I was 13 years old, I started my own business. I was cleaning all the shops in Saudi Arabia on Tahliya Street. I'd go clean all the shops with a broom. And I'm not kidding. The whole summer I did this, I saved almost 600 riyals, and I'm 13 years old. And my parents did not know, but I remember, like, then after that, I'd invite all my friends and, even the women, and I'd be like, candy's on me, It's like, so I've been that kind of person that wanted to be independent. I wanted to, I took one job in my life and I quit the same day. Minimum wage job. When I first moved to America, I just needed some extra cash in the beginning. I took a job, and she was telling me to carry these big boxes, and I'm like, how much am I getting paid again? They're like, minimum wage at the time was like $7.20 something an hour.
Right.
I said, excuse my French, but I was like, fuck that. I dropped the box, and I'm like, I'm out of here. And then she said, you can't just walk out. You signed a contract. I'm like, watch me. And I just walked out.
Yeah, exactly.
Bye, Felicia.
Every I've been working very hard to become independent, to de-dollarize as I got older.
Mhm.
When I was a kid, I started buying silver and stuff like that. And, just asking questions.
What made you this way? What made you this way? That, I mean, is your family like this, or did you have, you had such insight at such a young age. It's incredible.
I'm not kidding. No one helped me. I don't know. Dad was smart. He was a diplomat for the Saudi, for Saudi Arabia, a diplomat over there. He had some connections up in the food chain, including my stepfather too, who had connections to Khalid al-Sunaid, who is an advisor to a prince of Saudi Arabia. He was the first one in 2018 that told us about Ripple. So that's really where my journey began into finance. But before that, when I was a kid, I always just asked questions. I read books. My parents took, yes, this is what it was. Now I remember. They did not allow us to have television for many years when we were in our early years. We were not allowed to watch television. We had instruments. We had puzzles. We had things that get you thought provoking. And I think that's really what did it, because after that, I started getting interested in fossils and biology at a young age, so that's really where the curiosity started to come, and just growing up, asking questions and just becoming independent and not working for somebody. I guess that's how it starts though, at the young age. And if you look at today's children, it's really scary. They are lazy. Many of them are. I'm not speaking for everyone. There are many wonderful children out there and families, good parents too, but it's all about the parenting. Sadly, we have a lot of parents that are struggling so bad that they can't even keep up with maintaining the education of their own children. And this is why you see a domino effect now of stupidity and bad behavior. It's not an accident though, it's just.
Well, they relinquish their parenting skills. I mean, where I live right now, there are litter boxes in the restrooms at schools. So have you heard of furries?
No.
Well, furries is when children want to identify as a cat. They're allowed to do that in school, and they now have litter boxes. And so, of course, one of my snarky responses are when the teacher responds to ask a question and they receive a meow back, are they then going to be qualified for English as a second language because they're not speaking English anymore? I mean, this is crazy beyond crazy. It is highly distractive. And I'll tell you, that's I'm involved in so many things. The school board thing is one of my things that I'm highly involved with, even though my daughter is fully grown. I have a granddaughter to worry about, and this stuff is crazy.
I can't believe it. And
they wear long nails, they do their eyes, they wear pajamas that look like cats, and they're allowed to go to school like that. It's so disruptive.
This is more predictive programming.
Yes, it is.
This is how they are going to conform people, by changing the narrative. And, I've discovered something a few weeks ago because I was looking a little bit into this. The child thing is getting out of control at this point. It's really sickening too. But I found out that it was the Central Intelligence Agencies, the CIA, that were pushing these narratives into schools to put into the programming of children. So my recommendation is all the good parents out there, and I know many here in Houston too, they've already taken all their children out of public schools. Sadly, the husband has to work harder, and they both have to work harder to make it, because, but at the same time, she has to make sure that her child is growing up with love and, real education, and not talking about pornography at 5 years old. Come on.
Oh, yes.
It is the most important job that you can ever have in your entire life. And it goes by very quickly. And the first 7 years, the formative years are vital. And, and so if anyone can make that sacrifice, so I agree with you, Versan. It's so important. You have one shot, when the kids are that little, you have one chance to give them all the nutrition and water, and for them to blossom into a a person like yourself who, you used your critical thinking skills, you were inspired by all of the things that you had come in contact with, and if all the kids are getting fed as the television and all these other things, you have a different result in not saying that they can't survive that, but I'm just I agree with you 100%.
And in this state, there's a legislation going through now that if you do not agree with gender discussions from your child, you can have that child taken. A counselor at school, in the county, in the city, can remove your child from your home because you as a parent is not condoning the dysphoria. You would rather get them help to counter the dysphoria rather than just give in to the narrative and have them go through some horrific procedures on their body or medications that are not going to help them. We've got probably about 7-8 minutes left, and I wanted to just run through a couple questions, if you don't mind, that are still lingering in my head. Is that okay?
Yes, but real quick, I do want to add something.
Sure.
What's happening with children, and I want everyone to listen to this, especially your viewers, is that we need to, I'm not trying to encourage anyone to be violent or anything, okay? But sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. And
Yes, sir.
I think it's time reasonable men and women need to do some unreasonable things in order to get our point across. Because if we do not, I promise you, these monsters, these Satanists, these pedophiles, they're going to run all over us, and they are going to destroy our future and the future of your children. So
couldn't agree with you more. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
You talk about time that you're investing in these other things. That's just exactly where a lot of my time is. The civic work, going out and protecting our children, getting involved in local government, speaking up when we need to speak up. And
hopefully
it's not a fun place to be, but we have to do it.
The 4-part series that's coming out on human trafficking and child, that's coming out, Mel Gibson, and the movie that's coming out 4th of July, Tim Ballard's effort, Operation Railroad, that is going to bring tremendous awareness.
The sound of freedom. The sound of freedom. Yeah.
So I know that's way off topic, but people be on the lookout for that. Ask your questions, because I got one juicy question to ask him at the very end, and he's not going to have time to answer it, but I'm going to I want to see his facial expression.
I wanted to know, and quickly, I'll just rattle them off and you can answer them how you wish. Do you think that the SEC lawsuits are designed to slow down the transfer of these rails? What's the motive behind them? Because obviously, if that's where we're headed, why are they suing these companies and saying that they're securities? Number two, what do you think about JP Morgan settling their lawsuit over the Epstein Island thing? And why no Bitcoin?
Okay, so real quick, regarding the XRP lawsuit and the SEC in general, yes, Securities Exchange Commission, their mission is to protect investors. Yet we see that they are doing the exact opposite. They were involved in the FTX crash. I warned people 6 months before FTX crashed. No one listened to me. Crashed. I told people Binance was going to have regulatory problems because they are, again, considered a foreign adversary too, and they did not want to comply with the SEC's regulations.
Right.
Guess what? After them, I told people that Coinbase, at some point, the SEC let them went public, took some money from that, and now they're suing them for going public, that they got approval from the SEC. So the SEC is heavily corruption. Whether the SEC is doing this out of their own stupidity and their own negligence, I don't think so. I think there's a lot of heavier influences on side, because when you start to look at Gary Gensler, his job at MIT, and you start to discover his relationships with Sam Bankman-Fried, with the World Economic Forum. You also discover his relationship with Senator Warren, who is closely working on the Senate Banking Committee, which means she represents JP Morgan. She represents all They're sons of bitches. All right. As a result of that, this is the consequences. So they are slowing down the innovation for many reasons. And one of them is not just to steal more money from people. It's also to, more importantly, scare the hell out of you that this is not happening. And the truth is, the transition is still happening underneath all of it. So yeah, that's
Nothing
one.
can stop what's coming.
Yep.
The Epstein stuff, right? Now it came out today, right? I think the Epstein. So I actually put a tweet about this a while ago about the relationship between Epstein and the banks and this, right? Bank of America had the same problems, by the way. They just didn't cover. I think it's a disgrace. I think it's disgusting how they tried to just settle this when knowingly they were involved in pedophilia.
Exactly.
And, hey, JP Morgan, you know, you're the biggest banker in the world. He's already been convicted 5 times of first degree felonies of market manipulations. And guess what? Because he's too big, it's called CIVI, too big to fail.
Yeah.
He can get away with it. They are criminals. They are conducting crimes, murder even, and they get away with it.
Right.
Murder. Can't believe it.
Incredible.
So God knows what's really going on under there. I have an idea. I think people, again, like we said earlier, we need to fight fire with fire.
Right.
I'm done of going over this criminal acts and conspiracies over and over just to find out that we got screwed again.
My first thought when I saw this article come out this morning, I'm going, what are they hiding? Of course they're going to settle this. They don't want to get it. They're so afraid of what's going to come out if the truth comes out, and it will eventually. But anyway,
don't want anybody be paying attention when it does come out.
Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin.
yes.
So I'm going to go on a limb here and give a statement, but Bitcoin has been, it's a product of the National Security Agency. I've been saying this for a while. Bitcoin also working very closely with the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. So it's a global coordinated effort for Bitcoin. And it really it's interesting how it came right after 2008, the financial crash, and it said, hey guys, look, we have this new technology. We don't know who made it. It's mystery, man. And it's to fight the banks. That was the narrative for going digital. That's all. And it opened the door, the Pandora's box, if you will. However, Bitcoin has made trillions and trillions of dollars because they had something also working closely with it, which is Tether. Tether is what pumps Bitcoin. It's all fake. Tether uses, and Bitcoin and Tether, they use multiple exchanges that you've never heard of. Like not Binance, not FTX, you've never heard of them. And they're based out of Ukraine, they're based out of China, they're based out of the Middle East. And what they do is they prop up by doing fake trades, fake bot trading to create the illusion of volume trading. And there is no volume trading at all. So every time someone puts their money into Bitcoin, like an innocent person who has no idea what they're doing, at some point that money is getting stolen by some fake trades that convinced you that it was moving when it wasn't, and they just short it. Also, not to mention, if you look at the Tether logo, USDT, I dare you to look it up. You know what? Let me pull it up for you. Is that okay? Real quick? So
Go right ahead.
I'm going to share the screen with you. Tether logo. I'm going to share this with the audience. I think they'll be interested. So my brother and I'm very good with decoding things. And I think that comes from my engineering background. I know how to break things apart and put them back together. But if we look at, here it is, here we go. Sorry. Oh, I think you gotta go to the security here, and can you?
Yeah, I'm looking to see. Oh, do I go to security?
Yeah, it's the security thing. Allow me to share my screen. Sorry about that.
There, did I do it? There, you should be able to now.
So if you look at the Tether, that's their logo. Do you see anything unusual in there or no? Okay. So the T is really trafficking and the ring around it is the ring.
Oh, yeah.
People, again, they don't know how to decode things, but it's always right in front of you. I'm going to share something else with you. This is my Twitter account. Oh, I'm sorry, James Woods. Here we go. I caught this the other day when Binance got sued. Sorry, it's a bit slow. I apologize.
technology is not quite there yet, is it, Versan?
Look at, there's the flag. Yep.
Here we go, right here. In plain sight. No one can see it.
Oh, dear.
It's in the logo.
Oh, yeah, it is
Oh,
in the
dear.
logo.
Yeah.
You are right. Wow.
I always
I didn't see
catch.
it.
I've done hundreds and hundreds of decoding of things. I just don't talk about it. I don't publish it. You know.
But you know
I mean,
what, Versan? Here's something, and it's interesting that you say that about the tether. And I know we got to wrap this up, Christy. The tether, I've always thought is when I was in high school and the bad kids, they had to wear tethers around their ankle, right? They were following them, they keeping track of them. And so I've always thought of tether as a tool to follow the money. And it's interesting that you say that it's human trafficking, and that's the symbol. And I mean, I don't know, my hopeful side always thinks that there's some good guys in the background, and that perhaps they're using Tether to track, and Bitcoin, because remember, the Mt. Gox thing and the black market and all of those narratives, that they've actually used that to entrap the bad guys. And so, but the other thing is, as far as Bitcoin, there's more to Bitcoin than just saying it's a currency. The triple ledger accounting system, that technology, I think Bitcoin is going to be used for something far greater than the narrative that's being pushed as being a financial instrument. But I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's going to be part of our
And
world.
The lingering question is, what about Jason Lowry? Why was he allowed to speak so much about Bitcoin? And now all of a sudden he says, I'm going to be leaving for a while.
Yeah, that's what they all do, right?
Yeah, because it's coming out. I think people are beginning to figure out what is what. And I think more is that a lot of the people in the digital asset space who really have an idea, they don't know everything, but they have an idea. A lot of people in this space, by the way, have not done their research thoroughly.
Right.
I think they're figuring out that where the money is, the value as far as investment is utility. Anything that's a real solution, there's value there. That's it. So when you look at Bitcoin, I've never had to use Bitcoin, but if I did, if I had to wait 30 minutes to buy a cup of coffee, the coffee would be cold by the time I get it in my stomach. So it wouldn't be, it's not practical. That's like the best to give, because it's not practical. How the hell are you going to scale Bitcoin up to billions of people?
XRP ledger.
Yeah. Yeah. XRP ledger can settle in 3 to 4 seconds. And hey, it's so it is an instrument of value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Versan, we would love to have you back. I could talk to you for hours.
Oh, I just felt like this was going to get on a roll if we could.
I know. I wish we had time to, because I would love for you to expand. And so if you would come back, we would so appreciate it.
Yeah,
can you tell folks out there how they can find you?
Thank you for that. So best way to reach us is, well, you can follow us on YouTube at Black Swan Capitalist if you'd like. But if you want to reach us directly for like consulting sessions, we do private consulting, would be blackswancapitalist.io at our website, secure, and it is interoperable. So yeah, you can reach us there, and we offer really personalized coaching and mentorship sessions, just to help people understand the ins and outs of what's really transitioning here. And of course, we can answer a lot of questions that we can't talk about, but also digital investments and how this all ties in together. We cover everything.
Love it. You guys do such a great job.
And your Twitter handle?
Yeah, what's the Twitter handle?
At Versan Aljarrah. It's my full name, Versan Aljarrah. And there are a lot of spammers out there, but I've gotten rid of most of them. They hate me. They hate me because they ain't me. I'm just kidding.
I will put all the information up.
That's
for
a badge of honor.
Too. Yeah, it is, right? You're doing something right, Versan.
That's right.
so much.
We'll link to all of your pages in the description box below. If you're listening on the radio, you can catch this episode and our previous episodes on our website, vitabroadcastnetwork.com, or you can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us, our podcast at Vita Broadcast, and we will be replaying this several times, hopefully.
Yes.
But we thank everyone for listening. We thank you, Versan, for sharing your experience and knowledge with us. And we hope everyone has a great day, and we will all talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Versan. It was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Till next time.